Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining the Run Your Day podcast again. My name is Dan Hafner. Really appreciate you coming back to listen. Got a great lineup of shows for you this week. The theme of this week is the X Factor. The X Factor. We're going to talk a little bit about how you can stand out in a crowd, how to identify your particular X Factor, and just how to be against the grain and just be you and be awesome. So thank you very much for tuning in again. Today's topic is how to identify your particular X Factor. Sit back, relax, and enjoy today's show.
Welcome to the Run Your Day podcast, where our goal is to expand your focus and perspective on life. This is your daily dose of motivation, mindfulness, and so much more. And now, here to help you take your day back, your host, Dan Hafner.
All right, so how to identify your X Factor. So I looked up X Factor in the dictionary just to kind of get a frame of reference for what we can talk about. So X Factor, a noteworthy special talent or quality. Definition 2, a variable in a given situation that could have the most significant impact on the outcome. Okay, so we got a couple different definitions there. When I thought of this topic, what I really wanted to talk about was more of that first definition. The noteworthy, well, a little bit of the first, more of the second, I think. So your X Factor is whatever makes you unique. Your X Factor is the differentiating abilities, capabilities, skills, and talents that you bring to the table in any given situation. How can you be an X Factor in your marriage? How can you be an X Factor in your job? You know, a lot of us don't think about how we can do things outside of the box, outside of the norm and ordinary. What I'm here to encourage you to think about is how you can start to do that. You know, there are, I don't know how many billion people on this planet, 7 billion people or something like that. You know, everything that you do is probably replaceable by somebody else. I mean, there's nothing special about this podcast that I do. You know, there's a bajillion podcasts out there probably, and that is a specific number, by the way. But really what I'm trying to say here is that, you know, everyone is replaceable at some point or another. So what can you do to make yourself irreplaceable? What can you do to bring such unique and incredible value to any particular situation, job, or relationship that you are in, or team that you're on, that makes it like you are the go-to person? You are the person they call up in a pinch. When a proposal needs to get done, you're the person they call in. You know, as far as I look at this, I need to be more of an X Factor in my own life, in my own marriage particularly. You know, as a man, I know that I need to be more of an X Factor for my wife, to be able to be on point at all times and just be able to handle whatever comes our way, whether it's a small thing or a big thing. You know, that is how I look at this situation and be like, that is where I need to improve the most. There's ways I can improve in my career, ways I can improve in this podcast and in my business that will differentiate me within the market and create immense, unique value. But really, none of that is important to me if my marriage is not on point. You know, how can you be more engaged? How can you be more of an X Factor for your spouse or your kids. Being able to handle anything, being able to take whatever challenge the day is throwing at you and handle it. And we're going to screw up. We're all going to screw up. But being that little bit of a variable, that little bit of a, you have that chip on your shoulder, that edge that defines you and makes it so you are an asset, an irreplaceable asset to whatever situation you are in. How can you do this in your job, in your career? How can you get to a point where you are an X factor? You are known as someone that has a specific niche or skill set that is used in a situation that is just like, hey, we need this guy to come through for us. Call him up. That is where you differentiate yourself. That is where you make a name for yourself. And if you're interested in that, that is the kind of things, those are the kind of things that you need to do. Those are the kind of approaches that you need to take. And it's really it's done situationally. Like there are those times where you need to seize that opportunity. And it's hard to recognize. It really is. Like I can think of 100 different times where I've had opportunities that I have watched go by me because I was not willing to step out of my comfort zone, stick my neck out a little bit, and actually try to be that X factor. Like I'm not here to preach at you and tell you that I am, the expert on this by any means. But there's immense room for improvement, I think, in all of us in this factor. Like how, especially when it comes down to business, like how is your business or how is your career any different from the guy next to you? Like seriously, think about it. Like how, just because you have a hotel business or you have a shop down the street, like how are you any different or any better than the next one down the line? Think about that message that you're communicating to the market or communicating inside of your company. How are you any different than the person next to you? If I was your boss and I came up to you and said, can you do X, Y, and Z for me? And you're like, well, I don't know. And then, okay, I'll go right down the line. Like people are, a dime a dozen in these situations. It's sad to say, but it's the reality, So how can you start to gain a different skill set, to gain a different mindset, and cultivate yourself to become a differentiator, a difference maker, somebody that brings something different to the table? Think about that today. That is my challenge for you today. How can you be different? How can you be better, a better version of yourself today? Not tomorrow, not next week, today. What can you do? Go beyond, go the extra mile. Do more than is required of you. And this will take time. This will take time to build a reputation as this kind of person. But you can start today. That is my point. You can start this right now. You can, whether you think so or not. I'm going to start doing this today. I am going to start being more of an X factor inside of my marriage. I am going to be better for my wife. And I hate to say that I'm going to do things because it's very easy to back out, but this is something that like I have thought about for a long time and I want to do and I'm going to do because I know that investing that effort and that level of commitment inside of my marriage will make everything else in my life just blow up. Like I will be more physically on point. I will be more business on point, more spiritually on point. It will just absolutely pay off in the long term. I know it will, by doubling down on becoming more of an asset to my wife than I already am. So that is my X factor. What is yours? Think about that today. That's going to wrap up today's show. thank you very much for listening. Really appreciate you guys again. All the new platforms that are coming in, really, really appreciate you listening to. If you know anyone that would benefit from this show or maybe just love to hear us, please share it with them. I'm trying to get as many possible listeners as we possibly can. I want to affect as many people's lives as I could possibly affect here. That is the ultimate goal of this podcast. I just want to get my thoughts and my feelings out there to the world to share with you and to motivate you to run your day. That is the title. That is what we are about. That is what I'm all about. So please share it. Please help me grow this podcast. Really, really appreciate you guys listening. Be sure to tune in tomorrow. We'll have another great episode for you.
Thank you for listening to the Run Your Day podcast. We hope you enjoyed today's show. If you did, feel free to share today's show with friends and family. Until next time, have a great day.